You're listening to Creativity Unconfined. Stay tuned to learn about how the arts unlock the doors for those who are imprisoned.
Welcome back. My name is and remains Dave Gussack, and I am indeed the director for the Florida State University Institute for the Arts and Art Therapy with the Imprisoned. I can't tell you how very excited I am about today's episode. I have two very special guests with me today, right here in Tallahassee, based here in Tallahassee. I'm going to read a bit of their bio here, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how I know them and all of the work that we've done together till now. Ms. McBride, Julie McBride, has been teaching the joys of art. It's actually quoting that, joys of art, for a number of years to children and college students in the Tallahassee, Florida community as an elementary art instructor and an adjunct professor. Now, you would think with that background, I would have already had interacted with Ms. McBride even before this, but no, you're going to hear about how I've gotten to be ensconced in their world. We have over here Michael McBride. Mike is a senior database administrator with the Florida Department of Transportation, but Mike is so much more than that. You're the director now, or the president of the Night to Shine, the Friday Night Shine
Tallahassee.
for working with people with special needs and disabilities, which is another reason that the three of us have interacted in the past. My son has swam on Special Olympics with your daughter, and we did that for several years before we started doing this work. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit why they're here and how we've gotten to work together. I do want to talk about that in March of 2010. Their lives changed when their 19-year-old son, Connor, took the life of his fiancée. Am I allowed to say her name? That's okay. His fiancée was Anne Grossmare, who's been, her parents have been instrumental in working with the McBrides on looking at restorative justice and doing some amazing things together. Abruptly immersed in the judicial system, the McBrides witnessed firsthand the benefits of restorative justice in their son's case. As the story of this tragedy gained exposure, they had provided a unique perspective as the parents of the person who did the harm. They have also advocated and supported Connor as he serves his sentence in prison. They work to gain community support for the Florida Department of Corrections betterment programs in which Connor is currently enrolled, including materials, resources, and most importantly, volunteers. To say that Connor is enrolled is probably an understatement. I think Connor is one of the backbones in helping further it and kind of champion it. He's just does some amazing things. They know the importance of making sure Connor thrives, even in a Florida men's prison, so that when he is indeed released, he will become a contributing member of our society. And I do understand he'll be released in 2030.
2030.
Wonderful. I've had the unique honor in working for and with Connor on a program, the Model Arts program up here in North Florida. The reason I started getting involved and getting to really know the McBrides was when Julie approached Paula Santos Lemoyne Gallery and eventually me about creating a program inside. Can you tell us that's a lot? So let's start from the beginning. Tell us about your journey here, how you got here, your investment in the restorative system, and in the direction of working and helping Connor. You're helping a lot of people. So tell us about your journey to how you got here.
So since 2010, we have been advocates for restorative justice. It's a tremendous opportunity for everyone. It helps the victim's family. It includes the person who did harm and his family, and it includes the community. And we have transferred that in our support of Connor because that same healing, community-based conversation can apply to the men that are incarcerated with him, and it certainly applies to Connor. And you mentioned that Connor was enmeshed in the programs, and early on he took every program that they offered. And then he realized these programs were taught by other inmates, so he started teaching these classes, and now he builds the programs and maintains them. And the one we're most proud of is he does a trauma recovery class, and he has done that in every prison that he's been in. He built it. There's a volunteer that supports him, and the volunteer has moved with him so that he and another inmate can provide this solid program that includes victim advocacy, trauma recovery, and restorative justice.
Wow. what I'm always fascinated about, and I've been involved in corrections for going on 35 years, and oftentimes I do hear from many of the family members of those who are victims of crime. Rarely have I ever heard from the family members of those who committed the crime and the impact of what that does, of what the crime does to the family. Um, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if our society is has a tendency to try and compartmentalize that, or there's a surrounding a different stigma around that. But you two have really kind of, along with other family members of those that are inside, really make it public and make it known. And I'm trying to shape a question here, I guess. What I'm trying to say is, tell us what it's like, the impact of such crimes on the family members of those that create the crime, and then how does that drive what you're doing?
So, David, in our judicial system, we actually don't exist. We have no voice, the family members of the person who did the harm. But through restorative justice, it's a level playing field. And Andy and Kate Gromer, along with us, advocated for restorative justice in Connor's case. And because of that, none of us, including Connor, were stuck in that moment of Connor committing a horrendous crime. And we've all been able to move forward in our own ways, sometimes together. We often speak together, the four of us, but also individually as well. It's was a tremendous opportunity, one that we never thought we would be thrown into.
With all of your background, your work in the arts, your work in different administrative roles, your own experiences in working with families and working with people with various needs and abilities, how did that all prepare you for where you are now? That's a loaded question, isn't it?
This is such a huge question.
I have to honestly say it didn't.
Okay.
When you speak as the family of the person who did the harm, it's totally different. Interaction with other people is totally different. Stepping up in front of people and talking about it is totally different.
Yeah.
But it also has made us stronger in the other areas. The special needs community is often in that same boat. It's there and it's hidden, but the community doesn't know the need that surround that community. Well, that has helped us understand the incarceral family perspective also.
I was teaching at the time, and someone connected me with another woman who was in the education system whose son was in prison. And we have become, I call her my prison angel, because she said, I will help you prepare for everything you need to know about going into prison. And I just feel we are one chain in this link of prison families, because we've done the same for families as well.
Wow. And now let's flash forward. I have to admit, I've learned a great deal from both of you. I've been in the field for many years, but to see the advocacy at a grassroots level and to see the strength and the value of the type of efforts to bring programming inside it and to work within a system that sometimes is a little difficult to understand. I'm being political. You've navigated that. I've learned a great deal from both of you about tenacity and the ability to see the humanness in all facets of the people within the system. I'm not ashamed to say that I've come in with a perspective that was garnered by 35 years of working inside and having compartmentalized and realizing when working with family members that the compartmentalization sometimes has to be removed. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's just, it's fascinating. And I have to admit, you're one of the most tenacious people I've ever met. For those out there, if you've ever had a chance to meet the McBrides, you can't say no to them. I'm just putting that out there. I remember meeting you for the first time in this context at Lemoyne. We were all sitting down.
Oh, yes.
And I didn't know you from anybody. I remember you sitting in the bleachers when we were watching our kids race. but that was it. And you started talking about bringing the arts inside. Do you remember that interaction? What was the impetus behind getting? I mean, Lemoyne is a pretty well-established gallery here in town. What was that like to make all of these moving parts come together to champion the work that was coming from the inside?
It goes back to what you said earlier, David, about compartmentalization, because the MAP program within the prison system.
And the MAP now stands for the Model Arts Prison Program. It started at a prison in North Florida. And you'll hear more about how that program was established, but the MAP program.
Right. So Connor was instrumental in starting that, but there was one particular prison officer, and her goal was to make an arts community within the prison, because she also saw the compartmentalization and wanted to push that boundary and basically remove it. And she saw arts as the vehicle to do that. She was just an amazing, strong officer, but passionate about bringing an art program into her prison as well. And I think that's really what motivated me, because I saw the opportunity. Well, the men are doing such powerful work, and they're working through so much. They're learning empathy, self-empathy. They're learning empathy for others with the MAP program. And I think society should know that. I think we should be aware of what can happen within a prison and be rehabilitative instead of just punitive.
And one thing Connor did is he talked to us about how can we help this officer, how can we help gain exposure for this program. And he talked to me because I was in Leadership Tallahassee and I had connections in the business world. And of course, Julie's connections in the art world in Tallahassee is significant. And so we started talking to different organizations, and it coalesced there at Lemoyne. And Lemoyne was very excited about it. And like you said, the tenacious ones stuck with it.
And it was to be one small gallery at Lemoyne. Lemoyne has three galleries. And originally that was the idea, it would be one small gallery with the men's artwork and a descriptive of either their artwork or the process that they went through. And Paula Santos, who you mentioned earlier, a fabulous artist, had been working within the prison. And instead of having just one small gallery, it spread into a larger gallery with their sculptures, their paintings, their collages. And I watched people at that opening, David, reading the artist statements and crying because they were so human.
The fact that we had artist statements of those people that created this work, those men that were incarcerated in this facility, to have their words and statements, it was unheard of for me before this. I mean, I had worked with a colleague in Florence, Colorado, with their galleries and their shows. I've worked with places up in New Jersey. But to have full statements written by the artists about what the art meant for them, and to have that read by those on the outside, was just so moving. And so, which at the time you saw this as, oh, it's expected. I saw it as, do you have any idea what you just accomplished?
Even my elementary students had artist statements.
I know. And I think that's the key here, is that it's the artist's statement, which is about taking on an identity of a person who's created this, as opposed to an objectified exploitation of a two-dimensional figure creating this piece that's just, oh, this is a piece that came out from inside the prison, and there the identity ends. No, these pieces were done by individuals who had their own life experiences.
And that's the huge part about the program, is it's not about art. It is about the men and betterment. And
do you see Julie's eyebrows go up when you said it's not about the art? She's like, it most certainly is.
We've been doing that for years. It's about what they can accomplish through this medium on a personal basis. It's how they can grow. It's how they can learn. It's how they can be vulnerable. It's how they can discuss what they've done. It's how they can learn what they've done to other people. It is the complete package. And Paula Santos was perfect because she had them not just do the artwork, but she had them thinking about what that represents.
Yeah. Yeah, we're lucky enough. We're going to have Paula on the show later on as
Oh,
well.
good.
Yeah.
Of course.
And
Perfect.
you roped Paula in, Paula roped me in. And I'll be honest, the intention was just to do a 2-week pilot, if you recall.
Oh, right.
Paula and I would go in for those 2 weeks, create this work, and then we'd go away. So 2.5 years later,
Stretching it out.
it's just amazing, and I'll have a little bit of news about that later because I think it's really expanded. And it began with the vision of a sergeant who saw this, as you mentioned, this officer who saw this, the value of the work. But I think what's unique about this, and then there's something else I want to touch on, is that it's not just about those from the outside coming in to teach about art, but ultimately what this evolved into was we would go in and work with 10, 12 of the guys, and then they would go in and work with others and teach others how to work. It's as they say, I think one of their statements now is, who understands the incarcerated better than the incarcerated?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Right.
I think you were just as surprised at that opening when you saw that one of the pieces was done by Connor.
I was, because Connor, growing up, was never into art. At Legos, he was the Lego king. But even though his mother was an art teacher, he really had little interest. He went on a high school trip that exposed him to lots of museums in Europe. But I think Paula was the one who pushed him to create a piece that it has blocks of color and then this almost joyful, chaotic spilling out of beautiful colors from the inside. And I asked him about the piece to tell me about it. And he said, Mom, it's those blocks, those square papers show me, show my confinement, show my constraint. And then, but I actually have this expressive part of me that wants to come out and leap out. And it was a revelation to me. Also, Lemoyne was not only instrumental in showcasing their work, but because of that, it was a springboard for another show where many of the pieces were huge collaborations, which stunned me. They were beautiful, expressive pieces, and it just showed how these men, instead of being individual artists, could also collaborate on large, amazing pieces of art as well.
That was at the 621 Gallery.
Yes,
if I remember.
Correct.
Yes.
And that was, I remember walking into that space at the 621 Gallery, and Paula looked around when we walked in. She's like, okay, we can fill this. It wasn't a question. Oh my goodness, some of the most amazingly massive pieces. And they were just, there was a lot of people who came to that show not knowing what to expect. I liken it to virtual rubberneckers, that people may not give a second look at certain works until they find out that somebody has committed a crime. And now all of a sudden there's this fascination, which if there's any exploitation that takes place, I think there we can take advantage of that just a little bit. Get people through the door.
Right.
Because they're fascinated by it, but then they see these works that are created that are immensely expressive and human.
There's one artist, I call him the Wyeth of the prison, the Andrew Wyeth of the prison, because he has spent days, hours, and weeks mastering watercolor, which is a difficult medium. And he is teaching watercolor to other inmates, but to see his watercolor pieces, they evoke amazing, just moods. And they're in so many ways of just visceral. I've watched people look at his watercolors just in awe.
If I recall, his fiancée had come to the show. Am I remembering that correctly?
I know his mother. Yes, she did.
Yes, she
and his
did.
mother as well. That's right. And she travels from North Carolina.
That's
to
right.
see him. Yeah,
That's right. He had
she's
come
pretty
down
amazing.
from North Carolina. I remember working with him in the very beginning because he was fascinated by watercolor, but like many of the people who are inside, they create artwork for others of what they are expected to do for others. And what Paula and I focused on, she liked to say that she was the heart and I was the brain. And she very much was. It really was all Paula. But what she got them to do was start recognizing the value of creating art for themselves, and then the viewers will come. And while his work continued to be these wonderfully well contrived and constructed watercolors, became more evocative and much more lifelike with those pieces.
Yes.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
it's very subtle
It's
changes.
expanded a lot.
Mhm.
You're right.
It was just I don't know. I'm just fascinated by that. So then, you know, here you are in Tallahassee. Tallahassee, as we all know, you know, is like 2.5 degrees of separation. Everybody knows somebody who
Right.
knows somebody.
Mhm.
And so here you are in this community. This horrific thing happens in 2010. Um, how do I ask this? How have people responded to your, you know, your changes and your evocations of making these changes within the system? You know, could this have happened anywhere else?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. Tell me about this.
We were amazed at how open everybody was.
Good.
Everybody welcomed us with open arms.
Good.
You know, so many people said they didn't understand how we could continue, but everybody was there as we did.
Okay.
And that's part of Tallahassee too. It was a very supportive community for us from the very beginning, and very supportive for Connor. So any need that Connor had, like the man who's the volunteer for trauma recovery, he asked how he could help, and Connor was trying to get this program started, and he said, "Well, I can be the volunteer for it," and he has ever since.
Wow.
So I mean, there's always few exceptions, but everybody has been very supportive of what we've done, and now that we have the art program as a specific vehicle, then that has broadened the amazing people in Tallahassee that has helped us, that has brought in Lemoyne, that has brought us community leaders that bring organizations together. It's like it ties it all together. Connection First is a restorative justice organization here in town, and they sponsored the art gallery show at Lemoyne. So everybody is welcoming, for lack of a better term.
And it's moving beyond the boundaries of Tallahassee. The last show was at the North Florida College up in Madison. And we're working with the president there as a partnership to continue to expand the arts inside the prisons up here in North Florida, to the point that we're actually bringing some of the guys from the camp outside to work on the wall to do a mural.
Oh, wonderful.
Outside.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
That's great. And it's also expanded even beyond that. We've worked with Dr. Katie Owens Murphy. No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that right?
In Northern Alabama.
In Alabama.
In North Alabama.
Because of you, I'm now working with it. What is with you two?
Well, that goes to the networking,
you're so good.
You know. But she has an amazing inside out program, and a lot of what we have been able to pass along to Connor, we learned from our engagement with that facility. So we went into the Limestone prison in Alabama and talked restorative justice. And in that conversation, we were amazed at the depth of the men in that program. And one reference that sort of sticks with me is they talk about the mask. When they walk out of that class, they have to put the mask on. And that mask is so they can survive in that prison. And Connor has talked about that too. The program allows you to come in and be vulnerable and be with a group of people that you trust. And as soon as you walk outside that door, you have to put the mask back on of living in a men's prison.
I asked Connor once, so where do you see MAP going in 5 years? And he immediately responded with, I see it in multiple prisons across the state, and having its own nonprofit and supported by universities like Florida State.
That's a wonderful segue, because I've got some news for you guys.
Oh.
Because I just found out on Thursday, we've just won a grant
Oh.
of about $60,000 that's offered by Florida State University to expand the MAP program, specifically for the MAP program.
Wow.
Fabulous.
And so that allows us to go ahead and continue to pay Ms. Julie Argue, who will be on the show at another time, who is the art therapist, artist facilitator who took over for Paula after she left for Portugal. And so we'll be able to go ahead and supplement her and pay her
Oh,
to
wonderful.
do services.
That's perfect.
We are able to expand this to some of the other facilities here in Florida. Our intention is I have a meeting set up down in Everglades where we're trying to get the arts inside and being able to pay for volunteer artists to go inside
Oh, that's
and
excellent.
provide services. So this will allow us to then pursue even more grant money to expand the MAP program even further. So by the time Connor gets out, he comes work for us, and then he can go ahead and expand the MAP program.
He would
Well,
love
he would
that.
love that. He'd get you organized.
Yeah. Oh, and as you could probably see around here, I could certainly use that. So this is something that I've had to contend with for all of these years, for different levels, and throughout many different interactions. What do you say to those people out there that don't understand this, that see those that are incarcerated as two-dimensional, keeping them at arm's length, keeping them at, let's keep them separate, they're frightening people? How do you respond to those that say, why invest all this time in this when they're inside to be punished?
Well, the number one reason is 86% of them will come out. And what we are strong supporters of is we want them to come out as participating members of our society, and I can't enforce that enough.
Before they are released.
Before
Yes.
they are released.
Good.
And that's an important part. If you have 6 months of reentry at the end of a 20-year sentence, that's not enough.
It's not going to be enough.
If you
It
had
needs to
20
start.
years of reentry and then 6 months of, this is what's going to happen, you would be much better off. Society would be much better off if we focused on that. So it is really the benefit of our community to have these people ready to just stride right into our communities.
So they are learning self-empathy and empathy toward others and how to get along, how to collaborate. And that's what community is all about.
Excellent. You brought up this wonderful description that it comes from them, this notion of them wearing a mask. One of the things that I've been saying all of these years is the value and benefits of art therapy and artist creation is that you're working in an environment where any type of vulnerability or weakness can be taken advantage of, not just by the person sitting next to them, but by the system itself.
Absolutely.
And that the art and art therapy allows us to work behind that mask and to create new ways of communication, new ways of connections without having to remove that mask. And so I've seen that with many of the guys. It's some of the pieces, and many of the pieces that you've seen around here in my office, which is frightening in its own way, comes from that program. I know that you had spoken to Connor before coming on to the show. Is there any message that Connor would like to share through you as the conduit?
Oh, he's so proud of this program and all of the work that you've done with it, and Julie Argue, and before her, Paula. He would love for the men of that program to be on the show, to have their own voices, and perhaps one way or another that can happen.
You came up
We'll
with
see.
a really unique perspective in the beginning, or a unique way of doing that, a strategy of perhaps maybe they can come up with statements that we can have other people read
Yes.
those for
Yes.
us. Maybe do a theater piece and have somebody from the School of Theater to come in and reenact some of that.
Yes, and their artwork as well. I know when the sergeant that we mentioned earlier, she passed away unexpectedly less than a year ago, but several of the pieces in the last show that you mentioned were an homage to her and the care that she had for this program. They were just beautiful pieces. One man did a portrait of her looking at them. Another one did a fabulous collage of open prison gates and soaring clouds and I think doves coming out of the prison. It meant so much to the men to have someone actually care about them. So many people in prison think no one knows I'm here, and through their artwork they can voice that. There's one man. He's middle-aged. He's a lifer, and he creates amazing cardboard sculptures, just incredible. And one of them is he was inspired by Dali and also by Calder, who invented the mobile and the staybile. And he has this fabulous cardboard piece that's 6 feet tall,
At least.
and it moves. And it also was too big to go back to prison, and it was donated to the Challenger Learning Center. And the Alan Hanstein, who's the director there, loves this piece.
Yeah.
And the fact that this man knows that his piece is out in the community, inspiring other people, just gives him so much joy.
After that happened, Alan and I had lunch, and because again, Julie makes all of these inroads, and I've known Alan for many, many years, but to know that the piece was at the Challenger Center, which is this amazing science-based program here in Tallahassee, but Alan has a real vision of recognizing the value of the arts as a way to communicate
Yes.
the sciences in a way to learn, and he has requested more pieces and having a dedicated space or corner of the Challenger for the arts inside. And so, yeah, he's bugging me, and we'll get it.
Oh, I love
Not bugging.
that.
I say that with affection. But we, as a matter of fact, he may actually end up with this dragon here. If you remember, this dragon came out in the most recent show as well. And so, yeah. So you've
That's
created this.
wonderful.
Well,
That's great news.
This is all from you guys. You know, I can't underscore that enough. You and the sergeant, and there have been other family members of some of those that are incarcerated who have really continued to advocate and create change at this level. It's what's making the difference. It's amazing.
What you just said tees mine up perfectly, is making a difference. How can we make a difference? Not just in our case, in our son's rehabilitation, our son's ability to get out, but how can we all make a difference to the system so the system can work better for our communities? How the system can adjust and release people that are well adapted to our communities. Just awareness is huge, and people do. I mean, we certainly did. We didn't pay attention at all until boom, we're in the system.
We had no idea. I didn't know there was a difference between jail and prison. We've become enmeshed in the system, but in a very positive way.
And so we advocate,
and it's growing,
and bother people like you.
Wonderful. I think that's the best way to end this. I can't tell you how much fun and how wonderful it is to see you here. And knowing that long after this podcast airs, we will continue doing this work together. You guys roped me in. I'm stuck.
Good.
I'm so glad to hear that.
It's so good to see you all.
You as well. Thank you so much for inviting us in.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
a pleasure.
Creativity Unconfined has been brought to you by Florida State University's Institute for Arts and Art Therapy with the Imprisoned. Special thanks to our producers Sydney Nichols and Malia Burrows, as well as Florida State University's College of Fine Arts. If you like what you heard, and even if you didn't, please support us by liking and subscribing.